Okay, so I wanted to do some practice animations basically on walk cycles. And I'm not the greatest at walk cycles, but I hand drew a general sketch of what I wanted the different phases of the leg movements to look like. I made 4 images. Probably should get a picture up, but I don't think I'll do that, just because I'm a bit lazy for that right now. I don't have a script. Generally, I just wanted to talk about my progression as I made these various different animations. I just titled them walking. I've got walking 1, walking 2, walking 3, walking 4. And they all look progressively better as I've done them. But I just wanted to talk about the thought process that I was going through when I was trying to make these things. So, I'm not the greatest at animation. I'm still learning. A lot of this is just me learning. I've got several different frames here, and I've got, all put together, I've got about 4 frames, and I've got a couple layers. I forget the terminology for this sometimes. I did not have ever an art class about this, so a lot of this has been learning on my own, and there's definitely been some trial and error. But I want to talk about, mainly for this segment, the things that I really liked about this, and the things that I did not like at all. So, the first thing I'm actually incredibly proud of, despite how silly it is this. The little flary things. For such a simple animation as this, I needed some way to show myself where the leg was going, besides the color. Otherwise, I would pause it, and I'd forget where the leg was just. Which is a better point to make, probably about there. Or, yeah, I don't know. Just thought it was fun. It was just a way to help me figure it out. Right here, I wanted to make little lines showing where the legs would connect in the pelvis bone. But the thing is, that's kind of hard to make when the position of the legs isn't really final, and that was an additional detail I put way too much work into. As well as the angular shapes of this. That's nice and all, but I could have gone for just a couple lines. I didn't need perfect triangles. Okay, now I wanted to talk about the next step I did. I was still very uncertain on how I wanted the legs to work, so I thought, hey, adding more frames would make more sense. It didn't. It did not. This is a weird shuffle dance, because I have more frames specifically on this part. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have a lot of frames on some segments, and then I'm missing frames in others. Specifically the transition from... What the fudge is this? Oh, I'm not looking at the wrong layer. That's why it's not making sense to me. Okay, here we go. From there to there is pretty easy to figure out. Well, no, it's wrong, actually. That is wrong. Jeez. There's a lot wrong with this. I kept the little leg, the movements, the little tiny swishies, because I liked them. I started making a kind of pelvis bone line, but then I realized I hated it. I made a correction about here, and I used a lighter color, but I really should have used a much brighter color, possibly red, which is something I used later on, and did not fill in stuff because that blocks the view of what's behind it. I just need a little outline telling me which one's in front and which one's behind. I really didn't need to do this. It's also not really center. And while that's not incredibly important, it does annoy me. That and few other things here. The leg shouldn't be this far forward with that leg up. It's gonna fall over. But because if it's an animation, it didn't. But an animation is an imitation of life, and this is not how life works. I don't know, that might be this might be an idea to consider later when I'm animating jumping, or maybe shuffle dances, or various other things. I have a lot of ideas for dinosaurs and animation and all, but the thing is my skills just are not up to the task. But I'm getting a lot better. Alright, now we have walking 3. As you can see, I completely redrew the entire model because it was stupid to work with these little triangle things and then not draw the rest of the creature. I know I just won the legs, but honestly there's so much more going into a walk cycle than just the legs. There's the head movement, there's the tail movement. The tail movement in this is kind of awful, but you know, it's something, it's there, and I'm proud that it's there. And so I just kept these back to sticks with little pivot points, or with little joint points. I didn't make really detailed feet yet because I literally started off this animation segment with lines of where I wanted the feet to be. And then I transitioned and I just moved them slightly, brought some up. So, as you can see here, one of the legs, not very clearly, is folded up, while the other one's kind of a little folded, but not up. It's very much in the center. This creature is balanced. This creature could potentially stand in that position, which is really good for a walking cycle, not exactly a running cycle. In a running cycle, the legs would be, the leg that's folded up wouldn't probably be up here as long. It would be out, or it would be back, and it would just be a very wide circle of movement. I don't know much about animation, but what I have noticed is there tends to be this kind of circle out of which the legs move in. And a walking cycle has a fairly small circle. If I were to make a running cycle, the legs would go farther out, they would grab for more, and it would make a longer circle. Or it would make an oval. Not a tall oval, a long oval, because that's how the legs are working. The legs are extending longer to touch the ground and pull, and yeah. The head would also be further down to make more streamlined, but I think that's an animation project I'll make later. Something you'll notice here is this is not a full walk cycle. If you notice something odd, it's because if this one was to be in front, it's in front, it's there, it's back, and then it's there. And then it just goes back to being in front again. It's in front, and then it's behind. This is just half of a walking cycle. It's only half of it. And because I didn't really make it clear which leg was in front, it generally passes for movement for a full walking cycle. Like if you were to look at this at a distance, maybe? I don't know, might work then. Something else I noticed is that this leg looks more like it's in front, specifically because let's find a nice red color. It dips. That segment, the way it dips from down lower, up, that really determines, that really helps me distinguish which leg is in front. The fact that it dips, while this leg that's farther away and on the other side of the body doesn't. I could also make more details about how to tell which leg is in front by that hip placement or by where the feet touches on the ground. It seems to be walking on a tightrope right now, which isn't really something that a creature in life would do, and we're trying to mimic life. So the foot for this one would be like there, and the foot for this one, gosh darn it, I'm using my mouse, and that is not how to draw, would be about there. We could tell that this foot is closest, and that foot is farthest. I love Control Z so much. That is my favorite key. I love it. The tail only has like a few movements because it doesn't really need to do much right now. I'm not that good. And you'll see the tail later on is something I almost completely skip out on just because I hate it. I haven't figured out the thicknesses of the bodies yet, but I do like the neck curve and the head movement. So, first thing you'll notice, this is a lot more detailed than the last one. There's an actual head. There's a face with a little neck. There's a lot of red, too. The red is the general outline of the body that I knew was going to move a lot. As I mentioned before, I hate tails. The thickness isn't perfect, and I will pick apart my own art to, like, the very very small details. I will judge, like, let's say, a fragment of this line, just a single pixel is off, and my brain will go, no, I can see it. I know it's there. Dots and dirt on my screen. Those confuse me sometimes. But yeah, I'm going to talk about what I really like about this, and why I like this animation a lot more than the others. Look at that head move. I am so incredibly proud of that. If you didn't know, I have chickens. I watch them move, and I know this is in fact how a chicken walks. And I'm very happy with it. And that really helps add to the erratic movement and behavior of chickens, because they're birds and they don't know what they're doing. They're just looking for food. And that is what they're doing. But they don't know that, because they're birds. Yes. So anyways, I made a general outline of the front leg, because that I felt was the leg that needed most detail. It's not like consistent, because this is still a rough draft for what a final like animation would look like. If I were to make a final animation, it would be outlined completely by black. It would look nice. It would have coloring inside of it. There would be a background. If you've seen my other animations, I'm so ambitious, but I just can't pull it off yet. That doesn't stop me from trying. I try. And it's not the greatest. It's horrible. Just bad every single time. But I did it. And I'm very proud of myself for that. I put more detail into this. I don't really want to talk about the arm. I put more detail into the head, which is really just the same image, just edited slightly for the neck bends and stuff. And the feet, too. You can see I drew the feet differently. Let's turn this down to 9, to half speed. You can see the foot was drawn differently quite a few times. And I'm gonna get sick if I look at it like this. Okay, let's change it back to 18 so I don't throw up. Okay, thank goodness. That's the other thing. It goes so fast, the exact details of the foot doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if this foot looks kind of horrible compared to this foot, or maybe this foot, or maybe other feet, which have more or less detail on it. The fact that it's moving and generally consistent is enough. Except for this. This is, you can see there's the original plan, and then while making the original plan, I said, no, that doesn't work for that leg structure. So I just put the red over it. Your first attempts don't have to be perfect, and that's something I need to accept, and I beat myself up a lot for the imperfect details and such.